Achtung, Achtung. Here's Alex Wright. You're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com.
Welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I am the internet icon, the pride of the pilgrims. I've got a lot of nicknames. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. Jackie Jones, and I'm joined, and you might be wondering why right about now, Disco Inferno Glen Gilbertti is on the line. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Where's your co-host?
I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on. I think he's in the WV in West Virginia. He's got some
Interesting.
Making some
Could it be
moonshine.
possibly a disappearance? Maybe.
Maybe it could be part of the Martian invasion, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's being probed as we speak.
Well, he would probably enjoy that. Now, I love and I talked about this on the show long before it was set that we're gonna have you on. I love the guest booker kayfabe commentaries video. Sean Oliver sent it to talk about on the show, and I really like kayfabe commentaries video in general. The guest booker one, sometimes the guest booker part isn't my favorite, but yours was so much fun because it was totally different and it was talking about all the crazy ideas you had. And what was that experience like? And when they came to with you with like the idea, what did you think about it?
Well, I thought it was funny because Sean had told me basically, hey, this is what I want to talk about. I want to fantasy book the Martian invasion, the Visible Man, like all these things. But what people don't realize is, okay, and because I haven't felt the need to defend myself over the years, but the people that were in the room that day when I presented those angles, everybody there, the 5 or 6 people, know that was a joke. Mm-hmm. Okay, so but when rumors start traveling, and it comes across and the news travels that I wanted to bring Martians and Invisible Men on the show, that when enough of people hear that, it becomes fact. Okay, so I've never really, ever felt that I had to defend myself because they were just jokes to begin with. But I thought it was funny that we basically, could, book crazy stuff that was never meant to actually be on TV, because bro, come on, who would legitimately put Martians on a show where the angle starts off with 2 antennae popping out of Mike Tenay's head like he's revealed himself as a Martian? Okay, if you thought that was serious, I really question your mental acumen, so. But it was funny because I was talking about I never really wanted to have the Invisible Man on the show, but when you had characters like Eugene, Norman Smiley was kind of a goofball. When there are characters like that in wrestling that are kind of loopy, you could do an angle where you try and convince those characters that there is an Invisible Man. Mm-hmm. Like two heels each week playing an angle, trying to convince this one character. Like if Eugene in the WWE would have been a perfect example. Trying to convince Eugene there was an Invisible Man, and doing angles and stuff and all that, and then they reveal it's actually not an Invisible Man, but the 2 heels beat him up or whatever happens. But that wasn't so much of a I wouldn't actually have a guy out there legitimately wrestling an Invisible Man and selling it like it was an actual contest. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing, the Bill Ding thing, for years everybody thought that was my idea. Mm-hmm. But that was always and has always been, and you can ask him and everybody that knows him, that was Terry Taylor's idea. Bill Ding, the evil architect. And Terry used to have his sayings, the plans for success, the foundation for victory, was his sayings and stuff. Everything. Terry's the one that came up with, Hugh Morris. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to call him humorous. He didn't want to call him Hugh Morris. And Terry was the first guy that always had those characters that were play on words guys. Yeah. And stuff. So those were his brainchilds. I mean, that I had nothing to do with that. I would just always, for some reason, because the Invisible Man and the Evil Arc and the Martians came about, everybody just married Bill Ding to that must have been my idea too.
Now, has that ever I don't necessarily say got you in trouble, but has that ever had any negative impact on you? People thinking that these were your ideas?
Not really. Well, why would I? I'd gotten jobs booking in TNA after that,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So, I mean, the people that knew, people in the know what it was all about. There was just jokes, But like people that don't know, that aren't in the know, they think, oh my god. Actually, it did. It did have something to do with it because back in 2002, when Vince was in negotiations with Vince McMahon to go back to New York, or 2003, 2002. And he was having conversations with Vince to go back and ride for them, and Vince was going to bring me along with him. One of the conversations that he brought, he said, "Hey, he had 2 or 3 conversations with Vince McMahon, and it was almost a done deal. Like he just had to meet the right. They were actually setting up how they're going to bring him in, and he had mentioned that he was going to bring me in with him, eventually." And like when Vince had found out about that, and like the next time Russo went and had a conversation with him, he was like, "Oh, I don't know about this guy you want to bring in, Glenn. I understand he wants Martians on the show and stuff." So like that story had like gotten back to Vince McMahon and told to him as like a legitimate story that I was actually trying to book like Invisible Men and Martians on the show. So yeah, it did actually have an effect because this other people had repeated it as a true story to Vince McMahon.
Were you surprised that actually had gotten to him?
Not really. I know the way this business is.
Uh-huh.
People, if this business is very if people can people like to repeat negative things about people. If you hear a story about somebody that's negative, you want to tell somebody, you want to repeat it and stuff and everything. I'm not surprised at all. The one thing I've always prided myself on is I don't care. Is that if I know the truth about something, I don't care what people say about me. I don't have to defend myself because I'm comfortable. If I was like caught in something that was like a lie, and everybody knew about it, I would feel very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But when I know the truth, and people are repeating things that aren't true, as long as I know the truth, it doesn't bother me at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, are you going to do future videos with kayfabe commentaries?
I don't know. Maybe I mentioned they haven't gotten back in touch with me about doing any, but I would be interested. I love doing things like that.
Yeah. Well, you should definitely do that. They were a lot of fun. There's yeah. By the way, if anyone's calling, it's 508-644-8503. Actually had a lot of calls earlier today before we went live. Cool. But I just want to ask, because I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about ECW. What were your thoughts of ECW when it was going on?
Okay, well, first of all, one of my best friends was in ECW at the time, Raven. In retrospect, when ECW had come along, it was edgy, good mainstream music they were using. It was like if you were in the business, it was like it was an entertaining show. Okay, but I think what the problem was that like in retrospect now, the problem I have with ECW is that it created a culture of unnecessary violence that didn't really resonate to that just wasn't really safe. Like for example, back then if you were like one of the boys and somebody went to hit you over the head with a chair, you were looked down upon if you didn't put your hands up to protect yourself from getting hit over the head with a chair. Mm-hmm. Okay? But anybody human being that your reflex action when somebody is going to hit you with a chair and you see it coming, you're probably going to put your hands up to protect yourself. So the chair is going to make the same sound, but it's probably going to hit your hands and on top of your head. Okay? Well, what's the sadomasochistic purpose of taking a clean headshot from a chair? It's like this is back when we didn't really, people didn't really care about concussions. Like if you thought you had a concussion, you were a pussy. You're trying to get out of work and stuff and everything. So so in retrospect, that type of violence that they promoted was really bad for the business compared to if you look at where we are today. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of the traumatic problems that the guys have had with concussions and stuff. I just always thought it was stupid. Just if somebody's going to hit me over the head with a chair, I'm going to put my hands up. Mm-hmm. Period. I don't care who oh no, you can't put your hands. No, I'm going to put my hands up because that looks more realistic than not putting your hands up. I goes, why do you want to hit me clean over the head with a chair so it's going to hurt my head? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's they had good storylines. The show was edgy, but the unnecessary violence I was not a fan of.
Mm-hmm. I actually, not many people say that about the chair shots, but I always thought that myself. It's like, just realistically, why would you just stick your head out there?
Why would you stick your head out there?
Yeah.
It makes don't it's fake.
Hmm.
It's like real injury that looks fake, which is the worst thing you can have in professional wrestling because it's supposed to be a work. We're supposed to be making this look real without getting hurt. But why would you try to get hurt while not looking real?
Hmm.
That's the dumbest thing I think you could have done. So it's like I just didn't. I'm not a fan of that.
Hmm.
Never will be.
See, we got some people here online. Mark from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Disco, question for you. What do you think so far of AJ Styles' run and how they're using him? Personally, I'm a little upset with this whole Chris Jericho. I think this is the corniest Chris Jericho we've seen in a long time. And the fact that they gave him a win over Styles on SmackDown, it just makes me sick that they would just waste that match again. What do you think?
Well, to be honest, in this day and age of professional wrestling, um, we laud guy. There's an emphasis on the performer. Okay, like how good a performer the guy is, bro. If you wanted to bring, if you wanted to make AJ Styles a star, okay, and be honest, I just want to get a little sidebar here. A lot of people are upset that they're calling him a redneck. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but let me tell you something. What when you start legitimately in this day and age of pro wrestling, where it's a work but you try to be a shoot and stuff, everything, they did the same thing with Daniel Bryan. They kind of like shot on him, and what did that do? It got the fans behind him even more. It created like a thing like wow, why are they being such a dick to that guy? He didn't do nothing wrong. Why are they calling him a B player? Why are you burying him for a shoot on the show? And the fans got behind him. I would not doubt if they continue to do this with AJ and it makes him even more popular. Okay, because they're not really shooting on other guys in the show. They've only really shot on Daniel Bryan, where they just denigrated the guy, and it actually worked out to make him a big star. I wouldn't doubt if they did this with AJ Styles, and it doesn't make him a big star. But they have to be consistent with it, like they were with Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
My second thing is back in professional wrestling, we've gotten so far away from the model that's supposed to be used to bring in a star. Okay, and then this comes from because when guys come in, they're supposed to be good performers and they're good workers, and we want to see their match, bro. Back in the day, and back when wrestling was popular, when a new guy came in, the faster you beat somebody, the better you were. When you're beating a guy in a 12 to 14 minute match, it's like, what does that really do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, the
Right.
wins and losses these days don't really matter anyway. What if he would have beat Miz in 4 minutes? What if he would have beat Jericho in 5 minutes? What if he would have they had a couple more matches to take other guys in roster, get whoever's not that over, but you could put a guy in there, beat him in 3 minutes with some spectacular move. Don't go out
Like
there
in R-Truth.
or anybody, but just let's go take a guy, showcase a few cool moves, and win. Don't go out there. It's now these days they're making these guys put time in. All your match where you got 15 minutes and oh great, I got 15 minutes with Jericho now. We're going to tear the house down. It's well, I'd rather have 4 minutes with Jericho. He slips some banana peel and I hit him with my finish. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather do something like that because these days you can look at that. Maybe why that's why not a lot of guys are really that over anymore. Is because the second they come in, we're just showcasing their work. We're not really treating them whether this guy's a contender or what. He's just a good worker. So let's give him some time. Let's fill airtime with his matches. Let's give him 12 to 16 minutes every time he wrestles. But I mean, you know the deal. If AJ Styles would have come in and beat Miz in 3 minutes, what would you have thought that? What type of buzz would that have gotten?
Mm-hmm.
What if he would have beat Jericho in 3 minutes? What buzz would we have got from AJ Styles? People would say wow, did you see this guy AJ Styles? He just beat this guy in 3 minutes. And then combine that with oh well, he's just some redneck guy that this guy's a hick from so and so, and they're burying the guy, bro. They'd light a fire under the guy. The fans would get behind him. But I'm not a fan of the amount of time we're putting into professional wrestling on TV these days. The amount of time in the matches.
Just taking time up.
Right.
The other thing is the moveset. You know, like I feel like we're not going to see a lot of the moves that we've seen in the matches he was in New Japan and, you know, on the other indie matches he's been wrestling. I find myself nowadays getting more into watching like PWG and some of the indies, and you know, because some of the moves are a lot more physical that you see, and I hope that they don't, you know, keep him from doing them cool moves. Like when Shinsuke comes in, I hope he can keep that. You know, he's the king of hardstyle. I hope they can let him do that. You know, I hope they don't hold these guys back. I mean, we've seen the Styles Clash one time so far. You think they'd at least have like maybe like, you know, one of these, you know, face-offs with Jericho. You think he'd have hit Jericho in the Styles Clash and left him laying in the ring at least once, you know, but they haven't done that.
Well, I mean, this is a fundamental problem, and this is where I'm not gonna disagree with you, but this is a difference where I have like in philosophy with you probably having professional wrestling. Okay, you're a fan of a lot of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I watch it all.
Okay, do you work, or are you just a fan?
No, I'm just a fan. I
Okay.
wish I would have gotten into working, but I feel like I'm about 30 years old, so I grew up, you know, in the height of, you know, I was, you know, 10, 15 years old when you guys were doing, you know, the big run and business was good, so that's my favorite time. You know, your WCW days, the disco, I mean, that was the best wrestling I think we're ever going to have, and I don't know if we'd ever go back to that. I find myself, you know, watching Nitros and Raws from back then more than I like watching Raw today.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, about our WCW roster during the Nitro days, that's you won't find a collection of talent like that ever. We had probably 12 or 13 legends that were the top guys that went on to be probably WWE Hall of Famers, and then the mid card was filled with future WWE champions. You know, Benoit, Eddie, you know, Jericho and stuff, and like everybody could work. You know, and even a guy like me, you know, I wasn't near athletically gifted like a lot of those guys were, but I could sell and I had a gimmick. So I could work, you know, like I could fill good TV time because I was, you know, could always get, you know, crowd participation. Well, this is a problem. Like, and this was saying, like you watch a PWG and stuff and everything, and maybe you're kind of like I was when I was younger. When I was breaking in the business, I was looking at Jap. You know, I'd grown up watching the WWE and the NWA. But then as you get into the business and you learn how to work, you start watching, you know, Japanese stuff, the Japanese guys, and stuff. You start seeing the different things that you never really saw, which is probably what you're doing. But what I'm telling you is that when you look at the best times of professional wrestling and what they've gotten away from, is that too often, and nowadays is everybody is just a wrestler. There's no gimmicks anymore. You know,
Correct.
Back when the workers were gimmicks, you know, I mean, before I got into wrestling, I didn't know the Honky Tonk Man was not a good worker. I thought that he was like my favorite. You know, I get into wrestling and how to work, and I look at, well, this guy was the shits. But before I did that, I thought he was one of my favorite guys. You know, Piper was one of my favorite guys. You know, but he didn't do. You know, you look back and like working. You know, he didn't do much. Everybody had this charismatic, over the top character. Okay, these days, everybody like on the indies is just a guy. They're a guy that goes up there, works their ass off, and does acrobatics and does really crazy stuff. So, you know, what they're doing is they're taking guys off the indies and just presenting them as is. Like just taking them for the way they were in Ring of Honor, the way they were on the indies, and just throwing them on the show. It's like, you know, why not? Let's get back into giving somebody. These guys can work anyway. So let's start giving these guys some over-the-top gimmicks. You know, during the Attitude Era, what made the Attitude Era so great was, you know, you had Stone Cold and The Rock, but also the show was filled with Val Venus, Goldust, Kane, you had characters. Like there's no characters anymore. Every single new guy that's come on the scene, with the exception of Bray Wyatt, in the past like 3 or 4 years, has just been a guy. Another round, just like his gimmick is he's a guy, a wrestler. That's, you know, and so that's why you see maybe like the show is stagnated so much, and why they fill the show so much with wrestling is because that's all they have is a bunch of wrestlers, you know. So I mean, I would say if you want to take Nakamura's, or, you know, and put him on the show, give him 4 weeks of vignettes before he comes in. Make this guy seem like he's a big star. Shoot some weird stuff with him, okay? Then put him on the show and let him beat somebody in 2 minutes. You know,
That's
I mean, if he's
That's the biggest thing I don't understand that they don't do anymore. They used to do the vignettes leading up to people coming in all the time. And even just like the, 30-second little, interviews, the quick bam, bam. They used to do that all the time. Now it's just these retarded, drawn-out 4-minute promos in the back where they really, half the time they'll talk for a minute and a half and somebody else will come in, screen, and talk and interrupt them. I mean, that's the same thing every time. Like you said, the vignettes back in the day, I mean, that did so much, and they got their own production company. Why are they not doing that?
You knew
they could do so much of
They
that.
got the character over before they even would debut on the show.
You knew something about the guy, not that like now we're just letting the internet promote the guy on the show because he's coming in and everybody thinks he's a great worker. Okay, this guy's a great wrestler. Can't wait. I can't remember. Like, bro, think about this. Is like these days. Like everybody can't wait to see the match. Like everybody's talking like they can't wait to see AJ Styles is coming in, so they can't wait to see him wrestle Owens, and they can't wait to see him wrestle Amber. They can't wait for the match. When I was growing up, I couldn't wait to see the matchup, not the match.
Yeah.
I wanted to see I want to see two guys rising up the card, beating people every week, and getting in a position where now they're going to have to face each other, and we do 3 weeks worth of stuff to build up to their match. It's like they're promoting that. Well, that's not even that. It's just the promotion. Like,
I miss them.
Well, they could probably do them right now because they have so much airtime on the show. Like a 2-minute squash would probably be more entertaining than but in their minds, a squash match is a 10-minute match where the guy goes over. That's what but I'm just saying is like we're so interested in seeing like two guys wrestle each other because we think it's going to be a great match, as opposed to what sells is a matchup between two strong characters on the card. It doesn't really matter how good. If you're a serviceable professional wrestler, you don't have to be a great one. If you can build a match by talking, you're gonna get fans to watch. You're gonna build anticipation. I mean, these days these guys just come in and we're fascinated with their work, so we can't wait to see them working other good workers. Which I don't think you can sell to mainstream audiences. You can sell to diehards and people that like the art of the match and everything, but like in the big picture, it's a hard sell to the mainstream fans.
Thanks for calling in, Mark. A lot of good questions.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Nice talking to you, Disco.
Yeah. Cool.
But when you were saying earlier about calling AJ the redneck and everything, do you think that's in a way like the heel now is the company itself? And,
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, bro, it got Daniel Bryan over. Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe it'll get AJ over. Make him because it worked. I mean, like the whole time, everybody was sitting there like the people, the fans. And the people that were writing for the wrestling magazines and everything, they were legitimately angered that like people that they were burying Daniel Bryan so much, and I just think it really built his popularity.
Mm-hmm. So Juju B, I think she's from Ohio.
My question is, back in 93, 94, there was a WWF radio show named Radio WWF, and there was a caller named Disco Inferno who was a worker, and I was just wondering if that by any chance was you.
It probably was, because I was friends with Raven, and I think Raven was the one that was doing the show, and he like called me had me on the show one time. Probably if it was a WWE radio show when Raven was doing it, I think Raven was hosting with Shawn Michaels maybe, and he had me calling because I was good friends with Raven.
Yeah, well, Raven did it, and then I think Stan Lane was on it for a while. And
I think I only called one time. I think.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Juju. Let's see here, Richard from Montreal.
Hi, Jack, and hi, Disco. Big fan of yours.
Thank you.
Disco, did you guys watch Raw in the back during the Nitro days?
Oh yeah. I got a funny story for you too. We were backstage one time, okay, and basically, I think we were in Iowa City or something. It's just Des Moines, Iowa, okay, and we're all watching the show backstage. And there was probably like about 8 of us, and Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and me and stuff. They were staring at the monitor. Flair was there too. I'll never forget this. Remember when they had the Beaver Cleaver character? Okay, they had one of the Beaver Cleaver character vignettes where like he was with his the character was supposed to be like in love with his mother or something.
Yeah.
They showed one of those vignettes, and it's on the screen, and like it was so funny that everybody just started. I've never heard Benoit laugh as hard as he did, but he just started cracking up at that vignette. And Ric Flair looked at me, and he goes, Jesus, he goes, it's over. He goes, because their show was becoming so much more entertaining than ours that all the boys were selling out watching the show, their show in the back, while our show was actually live in the arena.
Wow.
That's a true story.
Disco, is Kevin Sullivan the smartest you ever met in the business?
Not this. I don't think I've met anybody that's the smartest guy in the room. Like the smartest guy in the business. Kevin Sullivan is very brilliant, though. I will tell you this. I listened to his. If you listen to him on MLW radio, he's got an unbelievably fascinating memory. I can't believe the detail which he can remember stuff. Yes, Kevin is very brilliant. I'm not going to say like there's anybody that I know that's like the most intelligent guy. I mean, I think there's a good handful of guys that are very, very, very smart to the business. But I wouldn't say one guy's like the smartest guy.
Thanks for calling in, Richard. What was that?
Bye.
Yep, thanks for calling in, man. Now, on the video you talk about, and you just mentioned too, that you weren't necessarily interested in the matches. You even fast forward over a lot of them, and you're interested in the build and everything. But how do you explain like the pay-per-views? Would you watch the pay-per-views? Because they would be primarily the matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's just you build up to the pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. That's like I mean, you're paying to see the conclusion of angles and stuff and everything, and they culminate in like a pretty good performance, an exciting match. I mean, I would definitely watch. I'd watch the pay-per-views, bro. I was a regular at the Omni for years. I mean, every time there was wrestling at the Omni, I used to go. Mm-hmm. I mean, so like, yeah, it's not that I didn't like wrestling, but when I'm watching a wrestling TV show, if I knew what was going to happen in the finish of the match, I would fast forward through it. Mm-hmm. And I watch. I mean, that's how I'd watch a show. I mean, I don't. You don't need to. If I know that Braun Strowman is going to beat, Kofi Kingston and I'm going to fast forward to the end to the finish. Uh-huh. I don't need to see that the 8 minutes of work that they're doing. Uh-huh. So it's like I know where this is going. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people like me that are fans like that don't really care as much about the actual length of a match and then, can't miss any of the actual matches. Because bro, it's still fake fighting. Mm-hmm. It's not it's not like a real it's not like boxing or something where you're gonna if you turn away from a UFC fight, you're gonna miss the knockout. You know what I'm saying? It's like wrestling is pretty much done under a basic formula right now. The matches are between like 8 and 14 minutes long, and you pretty much know beforehand which guy's going to go over. So, what's there to really watch? We've seen this stuff a million times. I mean, there's been so much wrestling on TV the past 20 years that what are you really missing if you fast forward through a match?
Mm-hmm. I actually agree with you. I used to do the same thing actually. It would all depend. That's why I like the short matches too, because you also got to know everyone's like signature moves. Mm-hmm, I could watch a couple Razor Ramon matches, and I knew all of his moves in.
Right. That's the way work should is. That's what professional wrestling is supposed to be. The guy's branded his moveset. You know exactly what he's going to do. Stuff. So I don't know. It's gotten away from that over the years because people do so much stuff in the matches now that it's just very difficult to follow it like that.
Mm-hmm. You still watch all the wrestling on TV?
I not really. I try. If Raw gets good, I'll start watching it. But what I usually do is I DVR it and I read Jason Powell's review of the show because we're on the West Coast. Uh-huh. Because the show's 3 hours early here or later. So it's very difficult to watch when it's not live. And I'm on Twitter. Yeah. While the show's live and I can't see it till 8:00 at night here, and it's it's 6:00 at night and everybody's tweeting what's happening. It's very difficult to like want to watch it, you know? So what I'll do is I'll read the review of the show, and if the show looks or reads well, I'll go to the spots I like, and I'll watch what looks good. But bro, I'll be honest with you, there's hardly anything I've wanted to watch like the past 3-4 months. There's a period of time when when Daniel Bryan was hot, when something like when the road to WrestleMania last year was a decent build, but this year right now it's like, I mean, what are you fired up for? You know?
Yeah, I mean, the end of the show this week was Braun Strowman, as you said, and Big Show and Kane, and wasn't really exciting me for WrestleMania.
Yeah, so I mean, let me tell you something. Here's a problem, not a problem I have, but here's what people got to realize is that, everybody and their mother has an opinion of why, what wrestling needs to do to turn around. Okay, like, this is what needs to be done and stuff and all that. But until wrestling has gotten bad enough for you to just stop watching it altogether, if you're one of the people that wrestling's never gotten that bad, like there's guys that are the wrestling writers and guys have been watching this wrestling for 20 years straight, for 20 straight years. It's never gotten as bad for you to just quit watching altogether. How can you speak for the people that quit watching? It's like you don't have anything in common with them. They quit watching the show. It's like you're still watching the show. It's like I think I can speak for the people that don't watch the show anymore, and I can give you reasons why I don't watch the show. So it's like I think we need to start hearing voices from the people that don't watch the show anymore, as opposed to the mindset right now is everybody that's trying to figure out what to do with wrestling are the people that still watch the show. And bro, let me tell you something. It's like the numbers don't lie. If you're a fan of wrestling right now, you're a fan of a bad product. It's like the ratings are not good. The reviews are not good. Like the show is not good. And it's like I'm not going to pretend it is. There may be a good match or two on the show or something, but they're getting away from the fundamental problem of what's wrong with the show. And then like people can sit there and talk about what they think it is. They think it's creative and stuff and everything. Well, it is kind of creative in that they've gotten away from the formula. And the formula is the more stuff you put on the show, okay? And like right now it's like pro wrestling, the show is very long, and it's very long with not a lot happening. The segments are long, the talk segments are long. Back when pro wrestling was hot, there was the show went faster.
Oh, definitely.
The matches were 6 minutes. You cut backstage, there was a 2-minute vignette. You'd go to a video package of a guy that took a minute and a half. Another 6-minute match. A 10-minute in-ring interview. Another 2-minute backstage interview. Another 12-minute match. Two 2-minute interviews backstage. Bro, there's just a lot of stuff happening. And what happens is like to get people, like the whole purpose of professional wrestling, you want to get more people to watch the show when you're on TV. You want the ratings to be high. To get the ratings back up, you have to give the channel surfer more opportunities to stop when they hit your channel to stay and watch. And we're not giving that anymore. We're giving the exact same formula every single week. So you're not going to expect the channel surfer that's not watching your show to anything on the show to grab them, because every week they're channel surfing and they're seeing the exact same stuff. There's a long match in the ring, whatever it is. Like just the basic formula of making the show so slow is what I think is really hurting it. You got to speed it up.
You mentioned, though, about, watching people that never quit watching wrestling. I watched it since I was a little kid with my grandfather, so over 30 years. But I never thought there would be a time I would stop watching wrestling, because I'd watch everything I could ever find. But I haven't watched SmackDown in the last couple of years. I don't watch TNA anymore. So I actually got to the point where I did stop. I watch Raw, honestly, to keep up with the show, and we do a live chat, so I have fun, interact with the chat. But the pay-per-views, and I really actually enjoy Lucha Underground. But a lot of the wrestling, I have stopped watching.
Right. I mean, it's gonna happen. If it's not like you can't. Usually, in TV shows, get canceled when people stop watching the show, when the ratings go down. It's like WWE's never gonna get canceled, but they're not. They're forgetting. Like I think Vince McMahon the other day made it like. Did you read that news thing where he said that the ratings don't really matter as much anymore as they used to?
Right.
Well, which I can't believe that he actually said that when you're basically you're all in on your network, okay? And like you're going, your buys on the network are probably your main source of income right now, or like that's like that's the meal ticket that they're banking the company on. But you're not going to increase the buys on your network unless you increase your market audience. If you don't increase your television audience, you're not going to increase the market that you have for people to buy the show. I can't believe he said that. I mean, because to me right now with the network, the TV ratings would probably have to be the single most important thing, because the more people you have watching your show, the more people that are going to buy the network. So I mean, if that's their business philosophy right now, I can't believe somebody in that room isn't sitting there saying like that doesn't make a lick of sense. Because we need a lot of people watching the show if we want people to buy the network.
I also understand that the TV ad rates is I'm not really big on, because I don't really care how much the show the company makes, but that's like the big part of the money that WWE makes. So if like less people did watch it and they would lose that, it would be a huge blow to the company.
Of course, bro. That's basic marketing 101. I mean, that's simplistic business. Those are simplistic business models right there. I mean, like I mean, the show is very geared towards the internet crowd, the internet audience, and they're making bank off of that. But just imagine if they could double their audience that watches the show. I mean, they would be a juggernaut, bro. The NFL in the past like 15 years has turned into like a global force. By basically, trying things, doing things to increase their audience, doing things to interact with, doing more things, putting on a better televised product. Every year, the NFL tries to improve the way that we watch the games, like the way TV has advanced. Where they have the arrows, the mark, like the visual presentation on the screen. The NFL every single year is doing something to increase their televised product. The WWE, over the course of time, is doing things that are making their televised product worse. So just think about if you like really concentrated on making the televised product in this day and age of like the internet and stuff and social media and stuff, everything, how much bigger wrestling could be. Back in '98, back when 11 million people were watching the shows combined on Monday nights, when you had on TNT and Monday Night Raw, the combined audience for professional wrestling, okay, of like 10 million people. When ESPN started showing Monday Night Football, you know how many people were watching on ESPN Monday Night Football? 10 million people.
Yeah.
That's how strong the wrestling brand was back in the late 90s. And now look at where the NFL has gone and where wrestling has gone. I mean, it's a shame if you think about it, because like they're just making some basic simplistic errors that you just sit back, like a guy like me will just sit back and say, I can't believe they're doing that. And I don't know. It's just, what are you going to do?
Let's see, I think we have some Songman. Is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
All right, John from Rhode Island. Got a question for Glenn?
Yep. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Was that your question?
My question is, what were your thoughts about working with Scott Hall when you were in that Wolfpack wannabe moment?
Oh, he was great, bro. You got to understand, is that back then the inmates ran the asylum, and they were running the asylum, and it was doing well. Because when you had that many stars, you had a lot of really intelligent input. At the top, like a lot of guys had Eric's ear, and we were getting some good we were getting some good stuff on TV. Okay, so Scott had always had he had Louis Piccoli. Scott knew that if you had like a sidekick guy with you, you could just do more entertaining stuff in spots. He was just very smart like that. So Scott, they would like when they were writing the show or were booking the show, they would give Scott something to do. They wouldn't even it started off. They weren't even including me in the angles. He would go back and say, "Hey, what if I brought Disco out here and bro, I got booked on that show and all those angles for like the first 6 weeks. They didn't write it in. After they would figure it out, Scott would go back and say, "Hey, well, I'm going to use Disco here," and they'd say, "Okay." So I owe a tremendous amount to that guy, but he knew that I knew what I was doing out there. He wanted a guy that that just had timing and stuff and everything. We could do spots and a guy that could take the bumps for him that wouldn't have to so he wouldn't have to take big bumps and stuff. I mean, that's just the way he was smart like that.
Mm-hmm. Songman, do you actually have a song for disco?
Oh, I do.
All right.
You are my disco, my only disco. You made me happy when you were dancing to the ring, because you made me just want to sing. Before I heard that ding, ding, ding.
That's a great song.
that will be his new entrance.
Fantastic. Well, great talking to you, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Let's see the blue guy.
Hey, Disco.
What's up?
There's an urban legend about you that you used to pleasure yourself before you went to the ring. Is that true? And if not, where do you think that started from?
First of all, with the internet and everything, I've not heard this urban legend. Where did you hear this?
It's on a huge list of urban legends.
I've never heard this, and it's never been brought up to me. Well, it's not true. So, it's not true. I don't know. It might be some. Might have got me mixed up with somebody else, but that definitely wasn't me.
Have you known any wrestler to do that?
No, I was very suspicious of Lanny Poffo, though.
We have found out that the Poffo, which I called it for years, he that was true, that he did.
Did he do it for a shoot?
Yeah, he admitted it actually on the K. I always wanted to ask him, but he admitted on the kayfabe commentaries. You shoot.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Now, so I want to take one step further. If we get him back on, I want to ask him if he did it to completion. But
oh God.
And then he'll hang up. But
right.
Yeah. Thanks, the blue guy.
Take it easy.
Yeah, that actually came up on our. We did roundtables for every month, and that was on the rumors roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
That was sent in about you pleasuring yourself before the matches.
Well, it's not true.
All right, excellent. Now
I don't even know what you could do where you could do that.
In the gorilla position, I don't know.
Oh, who knows, right?
No, I was listening to back in the day when I first got online. It was Meltzer was on 5 days a week on Yada, and this was a big time because it was WC all the shows are going. Then it was the downfall of WCW stuff, and he would always talk about you specifically that you didn't believe WCW was going to be bought by WWE. Now, was that true?
He didn't think that Dave Meltzer would talk that I specifically didn't think it was going to be bought?
Yeah. He said he would talk about like several people in WCW thought it was a work, but he would always bring up you specifically. That's
interesting because I didn't really, I never really conversed a lot with Meltzer. I'd see him, we were always cordial and stuff and everything, but like but he had he'd written some a falsehood about me, which I never really forgave him for because he never apologized for it. But and I didn't, you know what, I didn't think it would be bought because the owner of the company had come and given a speech to us, or Brad Siegel had come and gotten the boys together and gave us a speech and then told us he wasn't selling the company. Just flat out lied to our faces. Mm-hmm. Just told a room full of guys. So why would you think if he's coming, if a guy's coming in, your boss, and is saying, hey, we're not selling the company, well, so why would you just, what would make you think that he's full of shit? Say, right. Okay, well, I got to believe the guy. We're not being sold.
Yeah. What was what did he say about you? What was the falsehood?
He had printed that when I was when I'd been fired by WCW, and was there was a rumor that I was going to be going to the to be the Honky Tonk Man's protege or something. Or the new Honky Tonk Man up in WWE or something like that.
I remember.
So he was basically saying that at the time I was on my 4-month no compete clause, okay, and I'd been having conversations with Jim Cornette. He was calling me, saying, "What's your status?" It's the same as it was before. I got another month and a half of my no compete, right? So I had never said to anybody that I was going to New York, okay. So he printed. He said, he goes, Disco Inferno is telling friends that, telling people that he's going to the WWE. And I said, well, I actually called him up. I said, bro, that's not accurate. I go, I've not told anybody that. And I told him the situation. I said, they've contacted me about what my status is, and I just keep telling them. I've never said that. And I go, if you don't hear this from, I think maybe the three people I was like talking to back then might have been, I said, unless you hear this from Kevin Nash, Chris Canyon, or somebody like they were like my three friends that I was still keeping in touch with when I've been let go from WCW. I go, unless you hear it from them, unless you hear stuff from them, I go, nothing you hear about me is true, or it's not coming from my mouth. All right. So the next week, okay, I basically said that, to give some, basically put a retraction, basically it's not true. He writes in this thing, despite what the Disco Inferno says, I have it on good authority. He says he's going to the WWE. I was like, you gotta be fun. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, think about that. Okay, instead of calling and asking me, all right, are you going to the WWE? All right, he prints hearsay from somebody that says that I'm going to WWE. I have to call him to get the story straight, and then basically he tells me that I'm a liar. Okay, and prints it in the sheet next week. All right. To this day, have I ever gone to the WWE?
Right? No.
Okay. Well, I'm just still waiting for him to say, hey, I was wrong about printing the Disco Inferno was not going to, never saw that. But I just thought that. I mean, it just soured me on what he was like. Dave Meltzer is a brilliant. The work he puts in is excellent. Okay, he does his homework. All right. But I think the problem that I have with him is like there's no what do you want to call it? Editorial there's no fact checking. It's not like the USA Today or the New York Times where if they print something like they can't print inaccurate stories. You know what I'm saying? It's like they have to get sources and stuff, corroborate stories. They have to write stuff that if they're reporting as news, it has to be true. Okay? Well, the Wrestling Observer is not it's like they can call it a wrestling news source, but when 30% of the stuff you're saying is inaccurate, is that really news? Like think about that. If you're just getting like your sources that are telling your stories and you're just printing them. You're not fact checking, you're not double checking, you're not very rarely are you going to the source of the person that you're writing about. You're just basically talking to other people about what they're saying about somebody and printing it. And it's like, I just think that that's a very crummy way to do things. I mean, especially like, when I've been subjected to that, because think about this, bro. All right. During that time, okay, this is hypothetically speaking, we don't know this. All right. But when I was like, when he was printing that stuff, all right, that I had been having conversations with Jim Cornette. Okay, finally when it was my time for basically, my no compete was up, I got a call from Bruce Pritchard. Okay, and Bruce Pritchard like saying, "What's your status?" I go, "Well, it's the same thing I've been telling." I'd had this conversation like 3 or 4 times on the phone with them, where I repeated the exact same thing ad nauseum, like the exact same story. So he goes, "Well," I go, "Well, I explained to Cornette," and so he goes, "Well, I just want to hear from the horse's mouth instead of the horse's ass." Okay, that was funny that he actually said that. I thought that was funny. So I repeated the exact same thing that I told Cornette, and he said, "Okay," and all right, thank you. They never hired me. Okay. Now, hypothetically speaking, what if Bruce Pritchard was reading the Observer at the time and reading that I was telling people that I was going to New York before I'd had the conversation with him? Okay. Think about how that could have affected, like if that possibly could have affected my career, that possibly could have not got me hired by the WWE because Bruce Pritchard didn't like this young kid already saying that he was coming here when I haven't even talked to this guy yet. Okay, think about that. All right, and then think about the impact that could have had on my career. It's a hypothetical situation, but it's not that far from a possibility. All right, so how am I supposed to feel about him? About what Dave Meltzer does? You know what I'm saying? If I find out that hey, Bruce Pritchard they didn't hire me because he didn't like that I was telling people I'd already been hired. Think about that.
Yeah, and you could understand that, like if you were in his position and you thought like you really were telling the Observer or anybody that you're going there, you could understand why they'd be like, oh, we're not going to bring this guy in. He's stooging it off, and It's not even
absolutely
really happening.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Russo was writing back then, and he'd always wondered. He said what I go he said he went to Bruce Pritchard and said, what happened with Disco? He says that just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Bruce Pritchard told Vince. Because I'd asked Vince later, why did you ever find out why I never got hired? He goes, because Vincent thought I was coming in to where he actually put a silhouette of me in the magazine. Did you see that?
It was in the WWE magazine.
There was a silhouette of basically like coming soon, because I was supposed to be like the, whatever, because Vince liked to jump the gun on that.
Yeah.
But still, I never told anybody that I was going to the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I never said that, because anybody that ever asked me, I just repeated the same story. That like, hey, I've had conversations with them, and I keep telling them what my no compete is. That's it.
Yeah, I probably would have seen it because I used to read the magazine at that time, and I even subscribed to the Vic Venom newsletter. I think that might have been the first newsletter I got, which was Vince Russo's newsletter, if you don't remember when he was doing the Vic Venom thing. But anyway, before we started live, we were talking about TNA back when it was the weekly pay-per-views, and I was a big fan of those. I'd watch. I still have them somewhere. I used to record all the wrestling on VHS, but I haven't watched them for a while. But
let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Those were great shows. I mean, not a lot of people watched them because it was a weekly pay-per-view, and but go back and watch some of those shows.
Mm-hmm. A
lot of action. There's never a dull moment on those shows. There's a lot of stuff going on. There'd be a match followed by run-ins with another run-in on top of the run-in with another run-in on top. It's like, bro, it was just a lot of good pops.
Mm-hmm.
Like each show in that arena had a lot of good pops and a lot of well-produced pops, and then the work was really good. They had young, AJ and Kazarian and the Triple X and Loki and Harrison Storm, and Punk was there, and Raven, and so there was a lot of good guys and doing a lot of really, really good work on that show.
Mm-hmm. We talked about America's Most Wanted. I agree with you that was a really hot team. I don't mean hot looking, but they were having awesome matches. And I really thought this was going to be like the big stars of the future.
I'll tell you this: that the angle that we were doing when I was managing Diamond and Swinger against America's Most Wanted, that was, if you watch that 10, 12 weeks of TV, that was some really, really, really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was some really just good angles, good we just did so much just good logical stuff week after week, and a lot of heat.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of heat, it's like these days it's like where's the heat these days, Go watch those TNA Asylum shows, because Jeff and Dutch were very, very, very smart about that. You gotta have heat. And they just booked a lot of heat on that show, and it was really good.
Mm-hmm. How fun was that to be part of something that was just starting, and maybe you could be as creative as you wanted to be?
It was super fun. You gotta understand, like, we would I would drive up. It'd be me, Vince, Raven, and Perry Saturn and Sanders would drive up. And we would come up with like a lot of stuff. Those are some pretty good minds in there. Me, Raven, and Vince, and Perry had a good mind too, and so did Sanders. But me, Raven, and Vince just brainstorming in that car, the 3.5 hours, 3.5 hour drive there and back. We came up with some really good TV. And and we had to be. Vince would pitch it to Jeff, and he'd like it and stuff, and he'd tweak it. But bro, Jeff is, you understand, Jeff is he's old school, but he's one of the smartest wrestling minds that there is. I mean, he's just very, very intelligent on knowing the pieces to put in, how to piece a match together, how to piece an angle together. I don't know. It was just some really good stuff back then that we actually got Jeff to take the traditional formula. And what we were doing was not the traditional formula, and Jeff would, tweak it and throw the traditional wrestling formula back into it. It was just a good mix of stuff, and those are really good shows.
Mm-hmm. 1 Inch Biceps has joined us.
Disco Inferno, I'm pumped to talk to you, my man.
Oh, that's cool, man. Where you been?
I just got out of school and.
Oh, I heard you no-showed Johnny Mundo last week.
I know, I'm terrible.
That's true.
I did Johnny Mundo, but I had to show up for the Disco Inferno.
Well, here we are.
Jobs is also on the line. Do you have a question, Jobs?
Yeah, good to talk to you, Disco. Earlier you were talking about guys on Raw working 10 and 15-minute matches. Do you think that that's a hindrance to the guys on the roster, that the fans are being conditioned to expect a 10 and 15-minute match from their top performers every week on Raw with all of the injuries? Do you think that they're conditioning their fans? Do you think that's a bad thing?
Well, I think it's a horrific thing. I mean, bro, just like what you just mentioned, the injuries for one. Okay, I mean, you can't. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to watch the work on their show and the high risk stuff that they're doing and the amount of time that they're working to know that the injury risk is at a very, very, very high level. Like you're just watching, you're hearing guys get hurt. I'm watching them work each week, even before they get hurt. I'm thinking that guy's going to get hurt, and 2 months later, I hear, well, the guy's hurt. It's like it's just this, bro. And I've said this before. It's like these guys aren't the guys in their show are not they're not working anymore. Work is taking professional wrestling and making it look real without getting hurt. What they're doing is they're getting hurt. They're doing stuff that really hurts. Okay, taking big bumps, doing high risk moves. And guys are getting hurt, and the fans are chanting, "This is awesome." Okay, bro. When I used to wrestle, I didn't want to go out there and have the best match. Okay, I didn't care. There was a lot of competition amongst the mid card guys. We all had egos. Like there was the top guys, the mid card guys. A lot of us were going out there and getting good pops each night. Okay, I didn't care about having the best match. I wanted to have the best pop of the mid card guys. I wanted to do stuff out there that would get a good crowd reaction. Okay, because I knew all the other guys would be doing acrobatic stuff and like stuff and thing, but I knew that I could do things to get the fans to chant "Disco sucks" really loud. And if I did that, I would be like I was doing my job. These days, it just seems like these guys are out there laying out matches to get the "This is awesome" chant. Okay, which to me really doesn't do anything for anybody. All right, because all you're doing is you're trying to raise the bar, doing high risk stuff, and you're just risking injury. And the fans see that. They see you take a big acrobatic move, kind of like an X gamer that does a flip on the snowmobile on the exit thing and lands correctly. It's like you get a big pop. But it's like you took a lot of risk to get there, to get that pop. My point is like, bro, these guys just need to learn how to do stuff to get a reaction instead of getting the "This is awesome" chant. And like, yes, it is doing a disservice to the fans because they're just waiting for these guys each match to do something to kill themselves. Like those are the people, those are the fans that are watching these days. They're watching to see if these guys are, go out there and how crazy is it going to be this week. So it's like, yeah, it is a disservice to the boys and to the fans.
Anything else, Jobs?
No. Thank you for taking my call. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. Now, Mike Terry on the Facebook actually sent, I won't ask all these, he sent a list of gimmicks that I've come up with on the show, and he wanted me to run some of them by you and see what you thought.
Okay.
These ones throughout the years, like cigar-smoking midget who plays a baby, and he accompanies Braun Strowman, and the story is that they had a head transplant.
I like that.
All right, that one would work. Scatman Kendrick, it would be Brian Kendrick. He's like the manager of the Vaudevillains in NXT, and he'd be in blackface, and he would throw pies.
Wait, what now?
That one's very long. It's Scatman Kendrick.
I'll tell you this. Wait, just to go on the gimmick you just said before,
mm-hmm.
I would like that. I would like that gimmick if the baby had a genius IQ and Braun Strowman was mentally retarded.
Yes, that was yes. It was not just head, but it was a brain transplant too.
Right.
Yeah. So the baby had the brain, but he can't do anything. So people could kidnap the baby. It could go many different places.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The Scatman Kendrick was. Do you know the Vaudevillains in NXT?
No, I've watched a few NXT shows and I wasn't that impressed, and I don't watch it.
All right, well that's actually one of my favorite gimmicks. They come out with like a black and white entrance, and it's like they're from the 20s. But
so what do they do? What do they do like in the match for their gimmick?
They actually do kind of wrestle towards a gimmick, but really the vignettes are the highlights. Like they'll do these black and white, and they're silent. And like when they were feuding with the Luchadors, they had these silly vignettes where they drop like a piano and stuff on them, and it's I'm actually kind of surprised it's on the show, but it is very funny.
Well, here's the I just want to do a little sidebar here. Mm-hmm. This is a forgotten thing. This is what I tell people that are breaking into the business and stuff, is when I broke in and I came up, actually Raven and myself came with the Disco Inferno character, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to find a character that the fans could imitate. Mm-hmm. Okay, bro, when you do something that the fans can imitate, you're gonna get over. I mean, like the Honky Tonk Man, Macho Man, Flair, Hogan, the Iron Sheik, bro. There's just a list of super over guys in the history of this wrestling business that had characters that the fans could imitate. Mm-hmm. Who has characters the fans can imitate? Like, where are the imitatable qualities mm-hmm. of the guys today? Yeah, besides Daniel Bryan's yes chant, mm-hmm. okay, what can you imitate that a guy does on the show?
Yeah, it's. I think that's why Bray Wyatt had so many people for a long time, dressing as him, because, right. it was an identifiable. You would just see that, know exactly what it was. Which I saw. The Sinister Minister James Mitchell had posted this before, and he's like, back in the day, like a child could just draw a little caricature of any wrestler like Hogan, and you would know who they would be, even if it was just a child drawing them. But you could never do that today.
No, you couldn't, because like like these days everybody's a wrestler, so nobody's a wrestler. That's another thing Jim Mitchell said. Mm-hmm. Anybody can put on shorts and sneakers and a t-shirt and go out there and do a few flips and take a few bumps, and you're a professional wrestler. Mm-hmm. So it's like, where are the gimmicks? Where are the characters? Where's the things that the fans can go to the shows and I mean, now that Daniel Bryan's gone, the yes chant was over huge. Mm-hmm. It's audience participation. They want to live vicariously through the guys. They want to participate in the match. It's like this whole generation of guys right now. I don't even think they really grew up with any of that. Because nobody even really attempts to do it. Which is like, and to me, it's the most important thing with being over. Is like if you can be imitated.
Mm-hmm. Inchman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question from Facebook. LeBlue guy, he wants to know thoughts on Lucha Underground possibly doing an alien invasion storyline.
I mean, I don't know. I like that show. I did too. That's what I like. The work is kind of crazy because the Lucha style is mm-hmm. The Lucha style is a hard sell to the American audience, mm-hmm. just because it's just different. But I love the way they shoot the vignettes. I mean, the acting is really good. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, when I heard about the show, I really thought it wouldn't be something I like, because I actually don't like Lucha either. And when I heard that, I think I'm kind of in between fan. I like a lot of the silliness, but also kind of old school in ways like, I won't like that. But I watch it and it's like, it totally works on that show, and it's really it's the first show that's actually different than any other wrestling that's on TV.
Yeah, and it's good. And the vignettes are I'm glued to the vignettes. Mm-hmm. They're the way they shoot. Those are good. That's good TV. Short, not too long. It's just that's. I wish the WWE would take that model and start shooting stuff that way. I mean, it's just like I said, it's just hard. It's hard to find these days.
Mm-hmm. I think even that was another. I think all the guys wrestle to their gimmick too, where they incorporate the gimmick into the match, not just they are whatever a dragon, and then they're not once they wrestle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, I think even the setup where it's a temple and they all are fighting, because they're warriors, makes every match because sometimes, like we were talking about, if you watch Raw, some of the matches are meaningless, so you're not really interested in watching it. But just the basic setup of Lucha Underground, that they're, warriors fighting in this thing to go on and stuff, I think it makes every match inherently like somewhat important.
Absolutely. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, it's good. I love it. And did you read or hear Jim Cornette's views on it?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts on that?
Just, bro, let me tell you something. I was a fan of Jim Cornette growing up. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. Okay? But I just think that his problem is that he thinks he wrote the book on wrestling. There is no book on wrestling. Like when he talks about some of the things that you're supposed to do and stuff and everything, and it's just like, just the way things are supposed to be. It's like, there's never been a book on pro wrestling. So how, I don't understand. It's like, bro, the funniest thing that he does that I find comical is he's on this rant of trying to pretend that a writer and a booker are two different things.
Uh-huh.
Bro, a booker is the booker's job in professional wrestling is the same thing as the writer's job. It's just a different word to use. Mm-hmm. Okay, like he's talking about, like, wrestling, it's got too many writers now, bro. Booking and writing. If I asked you what the job description of a wrestling booker and a wrestling writer was, you would give the exact same answer for both terms. Okay, so him trying to, like, go on this rant that, like, bookers, wrestling doesn't need writers and he's booking. What you explain to me? What's the difference between a wrestling booker and a wrestling writer? A writer writes the stuff down on paper and types it out and copies it before he brings it to the talent to go over their angle. Uh-huh. That they're doing on the show. That's all it is. A booker you'd show up and you go into a room and he would tell you what you were doing. He would have it written down, So I mean, just what's the difference? Like think about that. I mean, is there a difference?
No,
or am I missing something here?
No, I've actually said, not in the exact words, but the same idea. I think a lot of stuff really is just interchangeable words that people get hooked up on. There was he's also because I same way I think he's the second best manager of all time besides Bob Heenan, and he always says you can never put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can never get people to believe wrestling's real anymore. But then he goes off against Lucha Underground because you can't believe it's real.
Yeah, his whole take was like the last bastion that wrestling had to be taken seriously as legitimate sport. I'm like, bro, it's been years since it's been taken legit. Everybody knows the work. When 100% of the fans know it's a work, we're just talking about a different product. It's like when you grew up, like those guys grew up in the time when it was wrestling was still kayfabe. When I broke in '94, there was still a little bit of kayfabe in professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. Over the course, like the next 5, 6 years and stuff, everything, we kind of got out of that, But like you can't ignore that, that basically like the crowds when unbelievably, there was huge audiences for professional wrestling when they didn't really care if it was real or not. Mm-hmm. You had Kane shooting fireballs and stuff, everything, all that. So you can't sit there and pretend that like things that were done affected wrestling today. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he's trying to marry. Like he's always been on this rant that like sports entertainment's like killed the business. But bro, sports entertainment drew the hugest audiences ever. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like the fact that we've gotten away from sports entertainment might be more of a reason that wrestling's gone down the tubes. There's no crazy characters anymore. The show is basically all matches. Where is there sports entertainment now? The shows now are wrestling shows. You got a bunch of wrestlers and they're having matches. The shows aren't like they used to be back in the Attitude Era, back in WCW when the NWO was showing up. Backstage and throwing guys off the trailers, mm-hmm. and then beating people up, and the cops didn't have to show up. Mm-hmm. People get invested in the storylines, mm-hmm. regardless of whether it's real, fake, or whatever. The strength of the storyline and the strength of the characters performing the stories. That's what people get with. Okay, so I just don't know what his take is sometimes, because like I just think he contradicts himself, but he's like adamant in his take on these things, and I'm like, bro, it's like I saw a tweet he had the other day. The wrestling needs writers, not booker. The booker's not writer. I'm like, what, bro? What are you? I feel like, what are you talking about?
There's
So-
well, I mean, like I know he likes Walking Dead and or a lot of people like those, but it's not like everyone who was Walking Dead believes people are being eaten by zombies or they think dragons are real in Game of Thrones, and it doesn't affect if you like the characters or not. When someone gets killed on Walking Dead, I see people like upset about it on Facebook. They know the actor's not dead, but you get invested in the characters and the show and the story, and you get into it. You don't need to think that it's legit actually happening to get into it.
Right, of course not.
Mhm.
And you got to understand, bro, that there's a lot of people that watch wrestling, and all they do is they turn it on from 8 to 11, and when it's on, they watch it, and they're done with it until the next week from 8 to 11. They're not on the internet reading about it. They're not analyzing the writing. The bloggers are reading the blogs about how the writing sucked or how good the matches were. They just watch the show, and that's basically the audience that you want to have watching your shows each week. You don't want to have a bunch of critics watching the show. You want to have just an audience of fans. Like a lot of the wrestling fans today, they aren't really fans.
Mhm.
If you think about it, like, bro, if you watch it, like your typical live wrestling show these days, is the audience is filled with about 5,000 internet trolls, and the other half is like families with their kids and stuff, and like casual fans. But half the crowd show up strictly just to troll the show. Chant CM Punk in the middle of matches. Boo the baby faces, cheer the heels. Whatever they can do to just basically troll the show. And so it's like you almost if you're like writing these shows. It's like if I was like a writer at the WWE, you would almost have to watch the shows with the sound turned down. The same because and just look and see what the rating of the show was the next day, and just follow the ratings, because like if you're listening to the noise of the people in the arena these days, I don't think you're really getting an accurate description of what's going on with the popularity of your product, because 200 pro wrestling torch readers can show up at a wrestling show and all start chanting the same thing, and the next thing you know, 5,000 people are chanting. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's the shows these days.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that too. The chants, because I've been at show or anything. It's if other people hear someone chanting something, you're just going to do it just because you're part of the audience.
That's just the way it is. And bro, you got to understand too, you're ruining the experience for the people that don't give a rat's ass about that. Mm-hmm. The fan that just wants to show up and cheer the baby faces and boo the bad guys, you're making the 3-hour experience a bad experience. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't even I don't know. It's just that's just my take. I mean, like you just watch these shows and that's what you see. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? There's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. You can't make it. If you could kick them, like I said, the WWE right now, half the fans of the show, they'd rather them just not even show up. If you think about it, because they basically try to hijack the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they move them around. Yeah. In terms, one more good question from the Facebook.
I did want to ask a question about, excuse me, sorry, your former partner, Alex Wright. How long has it been since you've seen him?
Oh, years. Mm-hmm. 10 years, maybe. It's been a long time. He's got a wrestling school. He's got a wrestling school in Germany, and he actually sent one of his guys here to Vegas. We put him on one of our shows here in Vegas. We did a pretty funny angle with him, but yeah, he's training a pretty good crew of guys here in Germany, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think me and Jack, we had him on the show whenever.
It was right when he started it up. Yeah, it was really cool. Was he cool with the Dancing Fools tag team?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. We had fun.
Was it really called the Dancing Fools, or was it just kind of came about because Bobby Heenan would always
Boogie Nights, the Boogie Nights.
The Boogie Nights.
And Ed Ferrara gave us that gimmick, and then I'd found out, like I wasn't a big like kayfabe sheet reader back then, and I found out there was actually a tag team that was already calling themselves the Boogie Nights on the indie scene.
Oh, really?
And we had no clue. Because I didn't, because I wouldn't read the sheets, and Ed didn't read the sheets and stuff. And these guys would, like all of a sudden I get things like, you guys are ripping off the Boogie Nights, and go, who are the, no, sorry. I was like, who are the Boogie Nights? Like, tell me, like, this is tag team, been wrestling for years. I was like, oh, whatever. Sorry, Boogie Nights.
They're still out there. They're very mad.
Right.
Well, you mentioned Vegas. Do you have, what are you doing in Vegas?
I work out here, and I also I work with the couple of the local groups here, and I teach a wrestling class on, like they have a wrestling school here, and they got like 4 or 5 trainers they use, and I'm one of them, and I teach on Wednesday nights.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I teach very specific what I teach. I teach punching, kicking, and selling.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned punching on the video, and that's something I always talked about on the show. Was you can have a guy that's all flying around and stuff, and if he throws really bad punches, it immediately takes me out of the match. And if you have someone who throws like Terry Funk or Jerry Lawler, whoever throws like great punches, Austin, yeah.
Oh, you just look at the top guys of all time. They looked like they could fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like that's why I try to tell these kids, like, bro, there's too many wrestlers look like sissies. You know, like if you can't throw a punch that looks like you know how to legitimately fight, and it's funny because like I train some of these guys, and I'm teaching them how to punch, and I'm like, when was the last time you've been to fight? And they're like, well, I've never been to fight. I was like, holy God! I was like, geez, I remember when I broke into wrestling, you know. It was like at the tail end, but like you talk to like guys like Bill Watts and stuff, like guys like Flair, Rick Rude, and everything. Wrestling went out and looked for legit tough guys and taught them how to work. It's like wrestling doesn't do that anymore. Legit tough guys fight UFC. You know, it's like now it's like we get the fans are like the wrestlers now. You know, it's like you got there's more video gamers that actually wrestle these days than there are people that have like been in like a dozen fights, like legit fights in their life. You know, I mean that's what you get. So when you see these guys do all these acrobatics and stuff, everything, and then you see them throw a bad punch or a sissy punch, or like I call them sissy punches. You know, I'm like, bro, it's like I tell the guys that I train, I said, look, you work on a show, you're not going to be one of the sissy punchers. Like you're going to look like a guy that could, if the fan hit the ring, that you would punch the fan in the face and he'd be scared to hit the ring on you. I go, you know, it's not that hard to do, but it's a skill that was that all the guys in the WWE back when they were making a lot of money, like, you know, like if you look at the WWE main events of like the top drawing guys of all, you know, the top ones of all time back from like 99 through 2002. You know, everybody at the top of that card could throw a punch and sell a punch. You know, you could fill the match with fighting. Mm-hmm. You know, like spots where they looked like you fight, and you don't have to fill it with more high spots and more acrobatics. If you can punch and kick effectively, and the guy can sell it good, bro, you can have a better looking match. Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to teach these guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Stone Cold is a great wrestler, and you know he did a lot more wrestling as you know, before he became Stone Cold. But it's really when he took off when he started, you know, becoming a brawler as Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, and I try to tell guys, bro, I go, nobody wants to learn how to work like Steve Austin. Everybody wants to learn these days how to work like Finn Balor. Uh-huh. You know, and I'm like, I'm seriously, that's US. You know, I ask guys, who do you like to watch? What tapes do you watch? Oh, I like Finn Balor. I like Nakamura. I like you know, they watch. I go, bro. Let me tell you something. I go, you're watching guys that like in the United States have never drawn a dime. I go, why don't you watch the guys that made a lot of money in the United States? You know, watch Austin, watch The Rock. Watch, you know, Brett, watch Flair, watch main eventers, and see how they work. Mm-hmm. You know, and maybe you'll learn like to work a main event style.
Mm-hmm. That was in Kurt Angle's book. That was something I thought was really interesting. He actually said that when he got into wrestling, he went back and watched all the guys that were top draws, and he learned from every.
How quick did he become a top guy?
Yeah.
Bro, it's such, to me, it's such simplistic common sense. You know, that like it's like there's just a lack of common sense in pro wrestling today. Like when the guys lay out their matches with injury risk, with blow to the heads in regard to concussions, with just there's just a lot of lacking of common sense. And all you got to do is look back to like what's worked during the times when people watched. You know, like just repeat that. Just you know, watch Triple H and Austin work each other. Watch Triple H and The Rock work each other. You know, I mean, just watch these guys that drew a lot of money work, and that's how you should learn how to work. But no, everybody wants to work like the acrobats because, honestly, a lot of these guys, kids that come into wrestling these days, can never get in the mindset, like the body language of like wanting to be a killer. Like I try to like when how many guys when they step in the ring, do you look at them and you're like, well, I'm scared. Like when I grew up, I was scared of Buzz Sawyer and I was scared of Abdullah the Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when they just scared me. I'd be like, geez, I even if when I started wrestling, I was like, God, I wouldn't want to work Buzz Sawyer. He looks scary.
Mm-hmm.
Some things like how many guys, like, to you, would like look like they scare you today?
Yeah, I think that's why Brock's so special.
Exactly.
He
scares you.
Mm-hmm.
And like you sit there and say, like, look at what he does. He throws like he works like a shoe. That's the one thing I love about Brock Lesnar these days is when he came back from UFC and first came in. Then I thought it was a mistake for the way he beat. They let Cena beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he works now, like he finally he came back. Seen him put him. Sorry, I've been coming over a little cold.
No problem.
When he came back the first time, and then Cena, and he put Cena over. He came in and he kind of like went back to being Brock Lesnar, the wrestler. But now he's kind of got this style where he's married the MMA to the pro wrestling, and it's like you don't know if like Brock's going to turn UFC on the guy in the middle of the match.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's the aura that he has out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he works like that. It's like, bro, nobody else on their show has that body language and intensity to where they look like they can snap and like hurt you for real.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the one thing I try to teach. I was like people I go from the second guy step in the ring sometimes. You need to look like you're coming to fight somebody, not coming to perform a scripted acrobatic fake pro wrestling match. Your body language needs to sell that you're ready to fight. And then the fans can feel that and they can see that. And you have to show intensity when you strike somebody and kick somebody. And, you have to act like you're in a fight. And like you see, what you see a lot these days is just scripted acrobatics. It doesn't even look like fighting half the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think honestly, bro, it's like everybody says like wrestling's evolved. I'm like, bro, sometimes evolve is not a good word. I go, because all evolved means is changed. And I think I sound like the old school bitter old guy sometimes and everything, but there's a lot of old school skills that could be reinvigorated back into pro wrestling today that would improve the product.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like if you watch old matches from WWE, like watch Undertaker and Shawn and everything, they exchange punches.
Mm-hmm.
Like at points during the match, and the guys sell them, and so they look like they're hitting each other and punching each other. You just don't really see that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not from the top to the bottom of the card like you used to back then.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know not that long ago, I was in the minority of people on our Facebook anyway that didn't really like the Kevin Owens Cena matches. Because exactly, it didn't seem like this guy's trying to beat up this guy. It was really, I do a move to you, then you do a move to me, and it was just like trading, big moves.
It's like a math equation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you could write, bro. Anybody could do. You could find two kids, and teach them how to wrestle for a month, and they could do that match. Just teaching the moves and stuff. It's like a math equation. The one thing, the problem with Kevin Owens is he can throw punches pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do it enough.
Mm-hmm.
If he wrestled like Terry Funk and beat people up out there instead of wrestling like Terry Funk meets Brian Pillman or like trying to do high flying moves and stuff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
His gimmick would get over more.
Yeah.
He'd have more of a character.
Mm-hmm.
He'd look like a guy like just a fighter on a show of a bunch of wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like if he just beat people up, like punch, kicked, threw guys around, but he does those things that to try to make it like he's having the best match on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like the good scripted acrobatic match. And like a lot of guys do that these days. And I hope AJ throws good punches.
He does, yeah.
AJ throws good punches. So I hope he uses that skill. You know what I'm saying? Like because he, like AJ and Owens would have a good match. Like AJ and Owens would have a good match if they had a street fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think that would be an entertaining thing to watch because you don't see two guys on the show that can throw good punches today. You know, you get the one guy throws a good punch, the other one doesn't look good. So, but like I said, yeah, that's the skill that's a forgotten skill, and a lot of guys they don't use it enough, and they should.
I actually noticed on Raw he was throwing really good punches. Really looked like he was hitting Miz, and I actually thought I think that'll be good for him in WWE, so he won't just be the high flying AJ Styles.
Yeah, me and AJ had a bro. Let me tell you, I had 3 matches with AJ during the Asylum years when I was doing the Sports Entertaining Extreme. There were 3 of the best matches I had.
Mm-hmm.
They were good. I had a street fight with AJ. It was a really good match. You would be surprised based on their memory of me as a professional wrestler. If you could go on YouTube and watch Glen Gilbertti versus AJ Styles, the kid's great. And he when he worked back then, he hadn't gotten as high risk as he is now. He would do high risk moves, but he'd do 1 or 2 during a match. That's it. Mm-hmm. Not the whole match scripted out to one high spot after the other. He'd fight, and he looked like he could fight. He had fire. So that's I hope that's the way he works in the WWE because I don't want to see him get hurt too.
Mm-hmm. I think didn't he wrestle Dusty Rhodes on one of those shows?
Yeah.
And I remember that being good. Obviously Dusty was in his 50s or 60s at the time, but and you would think that would not work AJ Styles and Dusty Rhodes. But I remember that being a good match.
AJ can work anybody. Mm-hmm. Anybody. I mean, he can work the Giant. He can work the Big Show. He's that good.
Mm-hmm. I do want to ask this question from Facebook. Bruce Briscoe wants to know who came up with the drawing for you to do the finishing submission hold that never got on anyone, and what was it supposed to be?
Terry Taylor. That was his idea. Terry Taylor.
Uh-huh.
It was just funny. It was just supposed to. I keep trying I had my uncle Luigi had given me a move that would guarantee I win my matches, and I kept trying to do it. I would screw it up, and I had to do a cheat sheet, and I'd put the cheat sheet down backwards, and I'd screw it up just and then finally when I did win, I acted completely shocked, I couldn't believe it actually worked. That was all on Saturday Night TV.
Uh-huh.
But that was entertaining, bro. I would choose. This is funny, my Nitro record was probably about I'd win probably about 35 to 40% of my matches. Thunder about the same, but there was a 2-year period on WCW Saturday Night where I went undefeated.
You were looking.
And I was trying to tell her, bro, why don't we do a gimmick? Call it Saturday Night Fever whenever I wrestle, because I'm I win every week, So
yeah, you could add your own streak. And
yeah,
as you mentioned earlier about guys, look like you could actually beat someone up, and not to ever thought Disco Inferno was the toughest guy in the show, but you had very wide shoulders. You were a big guy.
Mm-hmm. And if you can throw a good punch, and you're a decent sized guy, and you look like you're kicking somebody hard, people are gonna look like you can fight.
Mm-hmm. I always thought that too about even Daniel Bryan is very small. I thought his offense was very believable that he was doing damage to a bigger guy.
Well, here's the thing too. What I thought was a big mistake that he made is he would always throw forearms. Mm-hmm. Sometimes during matches he would throw punches. Bro, his punches were better than his forearms. Mm-hmm. And I always wonder why does he throw those punches? Because he looks like a little spark plug, like a little guy fighting somebody. I'm I always thought God, he should throw more punches because he looks like a little guy. If you're a little guy getting beat up and it's time for your comeback, you're not going to forearm somebody. You're going to fight. And I thought that was a mistake that he used to make is because, bro, everybody's doing forearms. You know what I'm saying? And forearms just increase the risk of head trauma, in my opinion. That's why I teach people how to punch. Because, you can't screw up a punch and give somebody a concussion. You can screw up a forearm and hit somebody too hard and you give them a concussion.
That's not something I would ever do. Well, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a lot of fun talking to you, and I was a huge fan of the DVD. And how can people find you? Not at your house, but how can they find you online?
At The Real Disco.
At The Real Disco. That's on Twitter.
Twitter.
All right, cool.
Yeah, Twitter.
Yeah, and I know you do. You do podcasts for MLW, and I know you're on Russo's stuff a lot.
Yeah, just it's funny because I put on my Twitter handle.
Uh-huh.
Let me read this to you. What does it say here? I think it says. My Twitter handle says that it says Glen Gilbertti at The Real Disco, and my bio Where's my bio at? Where's the bio? Here it is. Former WCW TV champion and cruiserweight champion, and professional VIP wrestling podcast guest.
Excellent. Well, I hope we can have you back again sometime.
All right, cool, man. Anytime.
All right, cool. We'll be right back.
Hey, yo, say hello to the bad guy, Scott Hall. In Your Head Online Radio.